Connecticut Democrats may want to look in the mirror. Rob Sampson, Republican State Senate member, one of our favorite legislators, at least one of mine. I love them all, especially on the GOP side. But Rob is here because Rob just doesn't care. The more people yell at Rob, the more he soaks it in. Rob, how are you, my friend?
I am doing well, Paul. I don't know if that's true. I do care, and I don't mind taking some criticism if I've got to speak my mind and stand up for something.
You don't care, I think, Rob, about some of the people who say, "Oh, that's Sampson. He's crazy." No, you're not crazy, Rob. You have principles and you talk about them.
Amen. Yeah, no, and to me, when somebody says that you're crazy, that's because they don't have the facts to rebut my claims.
Yes, exactly. This op-ed here you wrote is very interesting. And one of the things you bring up, Rob, is one thing that you and I have talked about ad nauseum here. I've talked about it with other legislators on both sides of the aisle. These so-called rats, stuff that we all thought, Rob, was not going to pass muster in the general proper legislative process in Hartford, but all of a sudden, wink, wink, shows up in the finished bill. And I know in this op-ed you highlight at least one of those. Explain to my listeners that aspect.
Yeah, so this particular session may be worse than any that I've experienced so far, with the majority failing to get a lot of their priority bills over the finish line. And as a result, rather than just give up and recognize that they were defeated, that they didn't manage to get those things passed, they decided they were just going to take the state budget, which is already a large document, a few hundred pages long, and just tack on a number of unrelated items, including the one that I mentioned in my article about it's a labor policy.
Sure. Yeah, but go ahead, Rob.
Wage.
Yeah, explain that to people who may not be in the minutia here, because I know when you explain it as well as you will, their heads will explode. So what is this one about?
Sure. Yeah. Well, prevailing wage is a law that we live under in the state of Connecticut that effectively makes every public works, particularly transportation projects, cost more by requiring towns to pay a certain wage determined by the Connecticut Department of Labor to the contractors that perform the work. And what that means effectively is that sometimes towns are paying 2, 3, 4 times what they might pay to the lowest bidder to have projects completed, to build a new school or build a new bridge. And that prevailing wage statute's been with us for a while, and we've worked very hard on the GOP side to try and reduce the impact of it by increasing the limit for when it kicks in, anything we could possibly do. And meanwhile, the Democrats are constantly expanding prevailing wage. And this year, this provision now is going to say that any off-site fabrication, so if a HVAC system is being produced somewhere to be brought to a school project and installed, now the town is going to also have to pay the prevailing wage amount for that fabrication, even if it's taking place, 5 towns over. And certainly that's just going to raise costs, and ultimately it's a driver for property taxes, which people are already upset about because I think people are getting wind of what their new property tax bills are looking like this year.
So, Rob, if I run Paul's HVAC Consultants, Inc., right, and I know a contractor I do business with, hey, I heard you got the contract to renovate that gym at XYZ High School in Southington or in Cheshire, but say I'm in New Haven and I already have my wage scale that I pay my guys and gals, and I have nothing to do with this job, save for the fact that this contractor who got the gig says, hey, I need some of these joints or I need some of these paneling. I've been working with you for years, Paul. You do great work. So now I want to make sure I understand this. I have to manipulate my wage scale because of this law?
Presumably, yes. I mean, I think they're really targeting the actual contractor who's got the job rather than any potential subcontractors, like in your example.
Yeah.
But I think it applies either way. And I think that ultimately Certainly, some contractors might benefit, but I think what's more likely to happen is you're going to see, changes in the way the market operates. That's what happens. Markets do, react.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's going to happen is you're going to have these off-site fabrication shops moving across state lines. They're going to be in Rhode Island or New York or in Massachusetts rather than inside the confines of Connecticut, because that will save them that expense.
And Rob, though, right, set aside what the bill says and doesn't say. You know what? I'm almost okay with this stuff from a legislative point of view if it went through the regular process. But as you point out in this excellent op-ed in the Connecticut Mirror, this was just kind of, this is an end around here. Hey, this did make it through the regular process, right? But we're gonna tack it on. I mean, that's. Rob, I've talked about this with you before and other people. That is maddening to me. I don't know how your head doesn't explode. It's just amazing.
Well, you're absolutely right, Paul. And my head nearly does explode because it never seems to end. I mean, we work so hard in the minority, and I'll pat myself on the back. I put up quite a fight in the Labor Committee in particular.
Yeah.
I mean, I go, debate these bills down to the last detail, and I want to make sure that, what we're doing is exposed to the public so that people have an understanding of what's actually happening. We go through that entire process, and the bill never shows up. The Democrats are defeated. They realize that they're not going to be able to get it across the finish line. And instead of acknowledging that defeat, they just tack it on to some larger bill. And the thing is, Paul, we could still debate the merits of that policy within the framework of the budget, but not when there's 100 items like that. I mean, what are we supposed to do? It's cheating, basically, and they're caught. And that's what I want people to know that are listening to your radio program today.
All right, folks, check out the opinion. No kings. Connecticut Democrats may want to look in the mirror. Now, Rob, save for the illusion of Democrats here. We had another weekend of protests, I guess. I guess we still don't have a king. I don't know. I've been looking around for a king, Rob. I haven't been able to find one. So I guess the no kings thing is okay. Because as far as I know, we don't have one, right? I just wanted to check with you.
Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, the point of my article was to kind of illustrate, that the Democrats seem to be demonstrating about actions taken on the federal level by President Trump and others, when I think that they ought to be looking at the way they run our state government. The fact of the matter is that Governor Lamont was in charge during the pandemic, and, they put in force many different edicts, which are extremely authoritarian, shutting down schools, telling certain businesses they couldn't be open, declaring some people essential while others were declared non-essential, restricting people from being able to work if they didn't have a shot, mask mandates, and so on. I mean, you just go right down the line. I mean, those were, in my view, authoritarian edicts, just like the type of things that Democrats that are on, at these protests across Connecticut and across the country have been involved in. I didn't hear them during that period of time.
No, of course not. Rob Sampson. Rob, take care, my friend. Appreciate it. We'll chat down the road. Thanks.
Always my pleasure, Paul. Thanks
Appreciate it. Republican State Senate member Rob Sampson.